Saturday will be the 11th of February 2023. I grew up hearing my mother call it Empire Day. That is what their generation knew. It was Empire Day. What was it about Empire Day? Don't you worry though, I will explain that to you. But before I get there, we note that since 1966, our young people have been repeatedly told a lie about 11 February by the successive regimes of Paul Biya and Amadou Ahidjo in La République du Cameroon. The lie seeks to cover up the historic importance of 11th of February in the historical narrative of our independence process. It sends the impression that the plebiscite never existed, that there were no terms to the federal union that was to be, and that we essentially walked over to La République du Cameroon and joined them. Of course, that never happened. The charade that La République du Cameroon has made of 11 February in successive years summarily sums up the fact that what happened on the 11th of February 1961 wasn't really significant. Let me explain to you what precisely happened on 11th of February 1961 and why it should never be celebrated nor referred to as a youth day in our territory. The 11th of February was the day the former British Southern Cameroons voted to stay away from Nigeria and to start negotiations on unification with La République du Cameroon. Now let me explain something here. There is nothing like reunification as some people like to put it. There is nothing in our history as reunification, especially when referencing it to La République du Cameroon. The terminology means bringing back or restoring a political structure that existed before. If we use the word or term reunification, it means that at some point in time, Cameroon and Ambazonia were one political entity, but then separated. Of course, we know it never existed that way. The British Northern Cameroons and the British Southern Cameroons were never part of La République du Cameroon before their independence. When Cameroon gained independence in 1960, these territories were there. They existed but were never considered to be part of the territory of La République du Cameroon when they gained independence. They chose their own fate in 1961. If any reference to reunification should be made, perhaps it should be only made in reference to Nigeria if the Southern Cameroons had voted to return to Nigeria at the plebiscite. But that was never the case. So this false notion of reunification between La République du Cameroon and the Southern Cameroons is a farce and a fabrication that La République du Cameroon and the elite used to maintain their annexation and hegemony over us. The plebiscite of 11 February 1961, organized by the United Nations, was not for reunification. It was to decide the fate of the Southern Cameroons. When they voted to stay away from Nigerian politics, it was implicit that the Southern Cameroons had nothing to do with Nigeria. As a result of that vote, both states now had to negotiate the terms of unification, that is, Cameroon and Ambazonia. So after the plebiscite, there were a series of negotiations, including the Fumban Conference, to lead to unification, which only came on the 1st of October 1961. The Southern Cameroon politicians had to negotiate unification, and it was based on well-defined principles. And one of the principles was a federal constitution. There were articles in that constitution which were very clear as to how the unified people of the two Cameroons should operate. The articles protected the minority rights of Southern Cameroonians. Article 7 in particular of the Federal Constitution, for example, stated very clearly that the federal status of the country should never be tampered with. That simply means that Cameroon was supposed to be a federal republic up to this date. But the federal constitution was violated. La République du Cameroon violated it and turned the country into a unitary state in order to annex the southern Cameroon, the reason we fight today. As a result of the annexation, many things and many people were pushed aside. In 1984, for example, the name of the country changed from the United Republic of Cameroon to La République du Cameroon. Let me pause here to state that the Republic of Cameroon was the name of the Francophone part of Cameroon at independence in 1960. So in 1960 there was La République du Cameroun, and in 2023 there is La République du Cameroun. Then two things have happened. If that is the case, either the southern Cameroons has been truly annexed, colonized, and assimilated, or La République du Cameroun has since seceded from the Union. That is the true historical narrative of February 11. The question we ought to be asking ourselves today, after 60 years, ladies and gentlemen, is, do we still see any significance in February 11? I began this by telling you that 11 February was originally called Empire Day. Only Southern Cameroonians celebrated Empire's Day. It was never celebrated in Cameroon because it wasn't a British colony. It was France. Turning 11 February into a new day by Cameroon was a ploy meant to get us totally disconnected from the British and from our own history. Empire Day, for all intents and purposes, was a day of remembrance for all former British colonies. It was a remembrance of that moment when former colonies celebrated the departure of their colonizers. 11 February was meant to be celebrated like in the fall of the Bastille. It was to be celebrated like in the day the great English statesman Sir Winston Churchill led the rest of the West to defeat Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler. It was a day of victory. Had 11 February actually been taken for what it truly was, an Empire Day or Empire Day, we would rather today be celebrating patrons like the Venerable Dr. E.M.L. Indele, John Goodfuncher, Augustine Gomjua, M.N. Bile, Bernard Fonlon, and you can name the rest. Unfortunately, our day of the Bastille was turned into a meaningless nude day. It has absolutely no significance to us and will never be. Had the United Kingdom played her role, our decolonization process, to its logical end with diligence, we of the former British Southern Cameroons wouldn't be where we find ourselves today. We would be a free people with an educational system of our own, a legal system of our own, a police force of our own. Gendarmes would never be found anywhere near our territory. DOs and all the prefets will be nowhere near our territory also. The French language would never have been imposed upon us. It would be a foreign language. Bilingualism, so-called, would never be imposed on us. Of what good is a French language, actually? What good? who uses it. Every year for over 50 years, the colonial leaders in Yaoundé promise our youth that the future belongs to them, that they are the leaders of tomorrow. But that tomorrow has never come for any of the youth. The president of France, who is younger than Paul Biya's own son, Frank, took power in his 30s. But just take a look at Mr. Biya's government. Not even the minister in charge of youth is a youth. He is dying. In fact, there isn't anyone in his cabinet who is less than 55 years old. But I am sorry, this issue isn't any longer about what goes on in Biya's government. It is about us. It is about us taking back our destiny. It is about the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia taking back its country. French Cameroon youth can stay with their youth there. West of the Mongol, the one thing we need is our own country, our Ambazonia. It is on this account, ladies and gentlemen, that the interim government is calling on every Southern Cameroonian to, on Friday and Saturday, February the 10th and the 11th, to stay home and refuse to go out to participate in any colonial festivities meant to put a nail on the coffin of our annexation. Every home and business, schools from Victoria to Inkambe must be shut down, and observe the biggest ghost town of all times. Most especially, we are not shutting down ourselves. We are shutting down this scam so-called 11th February, Youth Day. Let's do it in honor of our fallen heroes. General Transporter, General Commando, General Isubu, Ivo Imba, General Biabia, the Field Marshal of Ambazonia, and you can name many others who have paid with their lives to free Ambazonia. They will indeed be smiling from where they are, seeing all of us still honor them, and seeing us still determined to keep the fight on till we get to Boya. Besides 11 February, we have banned all Cameroon's elections organized in our territory. Any person or political party planning to participate in any elections organized by La République du Cameroon is free to do so. However, not on Ambazonian territory. Likewise, the so-called Mount Cameroon race will not be organized in Boya. Boya will be locked down, completely locked down, ladies and gentlemen. And that is my talking point. I am now going to open the phone line.